JD.com also seeing a fair bit of weaknesses on the back of concerns of those high, lofty valuations of Chinese tech stocks, and add to that concerns about the regulatory clampdown that's been occurring of late. Let's bring in Kurt West now. He's Executive Director, International Business and Clients, Principal Global Investors. He's joining us from Sydney this morning. So, Kirk, when we look at how that taper talk has affected the markets in the past week, it is definitely a concern. But do you think the reflation trade, given how growth and inflation numbers are going up, is that still intact?
Good morning, Avril, and thank you very much for having me on the show today. The simple answer to your question is yes. We still feel very, very comfortable and constructive about the outlook. We do think growth will continue to accelerate, as we do inflation, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. And we do think that investors will be better rewarded by being in growth assets over the next 3 to 5 years. And equities is a classic example of that.
What about commodities, Kirk? We have that copper rally that doesn't seem to be slowing down, and it's also a commodity that's needed in electric vehicle strategies or as economies decarbonize. Do you have any strong thoughts on that commodity?
Well, we are certainly overweight real assets, and that would include real estate, and it would include certain commodities, I should say. And you're absolutely right. Copper is a commodity which is very much under the focus at the moment, and because there are some very, very strong fundamentals underpinning it as we go to sustainable energy sources. So we're very comfortable in commodities, and we do think copper would be one of those which will continue to see support.
Right. You mentioned earlier that the equities play you think is intact along with the reflation trade, but given the margins, that investors seem to be quite worried about, given the Fed speak, to what extent do you think that tech play is still something to go for? And, what other areas of the market are you looking at?
That's a great question, Avril. Again, we are very comfortable being overweight equities. Within that, it's more of a defensive overweighting, and you can do that in a number of ways. We've tended to do it in terms of still being with those mega companies, both in terms of structural stories, and that would include technology, because we still see those as companies with very strong balance sheets, good cash flow, and operational leverage. And within that, you will have a number of Chinese companies. Understand your earlier comment that there are some regulatory clouds that we're going to have to navigate in the short to medium term, but I think over the longer term, those will be very good underlying investments. And we're also looking, again, because of your talk about growth and reflation, we still are looking to have a cyclical element to our exposure. And again, we're looking to do that through the large mega cap companies because we prefer a quality-based approach.
Okay. To what extent is there a risk coming from the vaccination appetite? I mean, when we look at the US markets, growth seems to have peaked, or at least some people think so, and then they hope the attention to a certain extent shifts to Europe. But we see how in the US, officials are struggling to get people to want to get vaccinated. They have to incentivize it. And even in Europe, you hear of how doctors have had to throw away vaccines that are expiring just because people don't want to take it up. How much of that is it a risk for your portfolio?
That's a great question. And I think you're absolutely right to hone in on vaccinations or the pandemic still being absolutely central to both the short and the long-term progress of the market. I think what's interesting is those countries which are more progressed in terms of vaccination are benefiting in terms of, going back to normalization and seeing accelerating growth and employment coming back. And you're certainly seeing that in the US. You're seeing that in the UK, and I expect you'll see that over in Europe over the course of the summer. And that's going to be interesting, I think, in the second half of the year, because you've still got economies which are really behind in terms of rolling out vaccinations, and they will not be able to open up, and they won't be able to participate in the global growth which is starting to be generated until they do open up. So I expect you will see governments, particularly in this region, start to become far more open and more public in their support of the vaccination programs, because until you do get up to those herd mentality levels, economies are going to continue to struggle. And you're seeing that in Southeast Asia at the moment with a number of kind of like increases in terms of outbreaks, be it Philippines, be it Malaysia, be it Thailand, and how that will struggle their growth prospects.
Kirk, thank you for your time today. Kirk West, Principal Global Advisors. And that'll do it for the business update for this morning. Julie, Teresa, back to you.
Thank you very much, Avril. All right, buskers in Singapore will get a new stage to serenade audiences starting next month. They'll be taking part in curated live stream sessions so they can gain fans and make up for lost earnings.
More than 10 acts have expressed interest. But will it be enough to revive the busking scene? Nirong Wei went to find out.
How many viewers do we have right now? 71.
Dwindling audiences and taking slashed by half.
This is what we're going to do again.
With his circus tricks falling flat on screen, Jonathan Goh moved on to his next act as a delivery rider. He's unsure if he'll stage a comeback, even with large-scale virtual busking sessions on the cards.
It's an opportunity cost for me. It depends on, should I go do GrabFood today or should I join this digital live busking? And if I don't go to GrabFood, can I actually earn enough to pay for my bills the next week?
The National Arts Council will press play on live stream sessions every 3 months for viewers to open their hearts and wallets through QR codes. Each session will run for about 8 hours. For some 350 buskers here, it's a chance to reverse their waning fortunes now that physical busking pilots are paused. They can jam alone or in groups of up to 10 without masks, with safe distancing in place.
The platform is actually going to be conducted at a venue that is equipped for live streaming, and there will be technical professionals on hand. They just really need to come down to the space, bring their usual equipment and play as they usually do. It would help them continue to build their audience base.
Full-time busker Cliff Lee hopes the bigger stage and wider social media reach will help him strike a chord with more listeners. He's now earning next to nothing from his live streams, despite doing them 4 times a week. Cliff says the once active busking community is a whisper of what it used to be.
I feel more and more alone in the situation because a lot of buskers, I feel that they have given up. More people are letting go of it more and more, that they don't want to do it full time, but they just do it on the side.
But the community is confident it's not their swan song yet, and the busking scene will come alive when performers can hit the streets again.
We hope that initiative goes well. Well, that wraps up this Monday edition of Asia First.
Thank you very much for spending your morning with us today.
Hope you join us again tomorrow. Bye for now.
Look forward to brighter skies. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.